What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about Silver Sable. So I never really got a chance to play Silver Sable all that much. When she first came out, I was much more focused on NTW, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I like her a lot. I think she's a pretty great champion, and I cannot wait to invest in my 7-star further. But I never played Sable, like I said. I didn't really give her the time of day. I heard nothing but negative reviews, so I decided to give her a try over this past weekend, and I've come back with some thoughts. So I want to show you guys a little bit of gameplay before I get into my review and how I would fix Silver Sable. I think there's a great skeleton of a kit here, but there's just a lacking realistic output of damage and lacking consistency is what I'm trying to say here. There's a lacking of realistic damage output because a lot of her bread and butter damage is based on the AI willing to cooperate. So Sable has these things called Sable Mines. You'll see I'm placing my second one now after I throw my special one here. And the way these mines work is every time the opponent walks over a Sable Mine, they take a burst of shock damage. Now, you can reset these Sable Mines early by countering a special attack or landing an intercept. So that's how you reactivate all of the Sable Mines early rather than waiting for the timer. But it kind of comes at the cost of lacking AI cooperation, ruining all of the damage. So I didn't even get to use my special 2 there, and that was a 60-second fight for 280,000 health. Not the worst thing in the world, but definitely not bad. Kind of reminds me of Arcade a little bit. This is a much better fight. Perfect showcase of Silver Sable's loop. You want to go for 2 special 1s and then a special 2. Because what happens with the special 2 is if you intercept with the special 2, or I guess you don't have to intercept, you just have to have the Sable Mines active and then throw a special 2 and push the opponent into the mines. If you can line that up, your shocks become critical shock passives, deal a lot more damage, and it's just a nicer time in general. But the thing with Sable is a lot more damage from those critical shocks is not a lot of damage, especially from a 7-star rank 2 with class advantage. After all that ramp up, it really just does not satisfy at all. Another thing that's tricky about Sable is to access that additional damage. It's difficult to line up a special 2 when you're out of range of the Sable Mines and if the Sable Mines are inactive. So you really need to land an intercept with your special 2 to reset the Sable Mines, so then the opponent can get knocked into them and the critical shocks can trigger. So there's just a lot going on with Sable's kit. I have one more fight here. There's a lot going on with her kit to where if the AI is not cooperating perfectly, you are not going to see any success with her rotation. Her normal shocks are okay in damage. They are not the star of the show. The star of the show for Silver Sable is the Sable Mines detonating and then triggering those critical shock passives from the special 2. But to get to the point where you can do both of those things consistently and not ruining one by activating the other is very tough, because Sable needs the intercept prior to the special 2 to re-trigger the Sable Mines, because what happens is you want to keep the opponent cornered, right? To have all the Sable Mines right next to each other. So what happens is the opponent will dash in after the Sable Mines have re-triggered, trigger the Sable Mines, and then because they're in the corner, they dash through them, and if you don't get the intercept, you're screwed. Luckily, I got the intercept there, but there's just so many ways to self-sabotage yourself with Sable. It's just unfortunate that the kit kind of has all of these loose ends that weren't really tied up. Because if you're trying to throw that special 2 intercept and the opponent has dashed through the Sable Mines, you have to either land a normal intercept and then throw your special 2, or land a special 2 intercept, which is not consistent by any stretch of the imagination. So Sable is an interesting character. This is how I would change Silver Sable. I have 2 suggestions, okay? Number 1, this one is tentative. I don't necessarily think this is a game changer for her, but I feel it would make her a lot more tempting for people to rank up, let's just say. Replace shock with disintegration and lessen the combat power rate reduction from her specific disintegration because she can stack a lot of shocks. So she would be able to stack a lot of disintegration. So why I think this would be a great change, a couple of reasons. Number one, most of her key matchups are against opponents that are shock immune. Now, it doesn't completely gimp her because she deals a burst of shock damage from attempting to apply a shock, but you lose out on those critical shock passives, at least from my understanding, because there are no shocks to convert, so you don't convert anything into critical anything because there's nothing to convert. So her primary matchups, science matchups like Thing and Photon and Scorpion, are all shock immune. So it just seems very counterintuitive to have shock be her main damage source. Now, disintegration, that's a different story. I understand disintegration is tethered to tech champions, but giving Sable a Sable Mine disintegration, very specific to her, means nobody's immune to it. It doesn't have to deal massive damage, but the damage should be bumped up a little bit. I think overall she needs that. And disintegration can come with a small combat power rate reduction, making it easier to land consistent intercepts, because one of the ways to reset Sable Mines is to intercept. So if they dash through the Sable Mines, trigger them, land an intercept, and dash right back into them because you're comboing them against the wall, you've triggered the mines again, and because of the disintegration, the combat power rate's lessened, so you can dash back again, bait another intercept, and it just seems like a way better debuff for Silver Sable. It doesn't have to be super strong CPR. It can be like 2 or 3% per debuff, so you max out at like 30%, which is still significant, and it's not a game changer, but it makes landing more consistent intercepts way easier. And this ties in to number 2, making the opponent more aggressive when they're on top of the Sable Mines. So even with just 2 Sable Mines, that's a pretty significant amount of ground being covered on the opponent's wall. So needing to intercept, now, and again, when I say need, the most ideal way to trigger your Special 2 big passive damage is by landing a Special 2 intercept. So by making the opponent more aggressive, the need to intercept is lessened. Now, it's not a guarantee. It's like Infuriate. It doesn't always work, but giving her a little bit of AI manipulation when the opponent is on top of the Sable Mine would make her damage rotation way more realistic, way more streamlined, and having the disintegration on top of it means she's a skill attacker that bypasses a lot of Science Defender's annoying immunities, on top of giving her some combat power rate reduction to consistently land intercepts and lessen the power the opponent will get over the course of the matchup. I think these 2 changes would not necessarily transcend Silver Sable, but make her a way more interesting character, a way more viable character for content, and those specific science matchups that she's supposed to thrive in. It just makes more sense for her to have science countering debuffs, right? With like disintegration, or you could even have it be sabotage and reduce ability accuracy. I mean, there's so many things you can do aside from shock. Shock is great when it works, but when it doesn't work, especially against those science characters, those key science characters, it doesn't make any sense because the burst damage is okay, but you lose out on that Special 2 damage. So I don't know. To me, I think these 2 changes would make Silver Sable a way more enticing pull from a Titan Crystal, especially as an unawakened character because she doesn't necessarily need the dupe. She likes it because of the increased ability accuracy to trigger or the increased chance to trigger these shocks on her light and medium attack intercepts. So it would be nice if that were to be disintegration, because again, like I said, nobody is immune to disintegration, and the CPR reduction, again, it can be small, but even like 10% can give you another window to intercept where you wouldn't have had it prior. So yeah, and 10% not per debuff, in total, like if you have 5 or 6 shocks stacked up, it can be 10%, something like that. I think these 2 changes would make Silver Sable way better, so let me know what you think. If you think anything else would make Silver Sable a better character, let me know down in the comments below. I do think overall she needs more damage, but that can kind of just be added throughout the kit I don't need to make a specific point about it because I feel that it's very obvious that she needs just a little bit more damage. But these two things specifically, I feel are necessary for Sable to be a character that I would want to pull. Like, if Sable were to be changed in rebalancing, and these two things were the changes, she wouldn't shoot to the top of my list for skill champions, but I would not be upset to pull Silver Sable because she'd be a super unique skill attacker with a really interesting high octane loop that rewards skilled play. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think this is enough to fix Silver Sable's kit, or do you think she needs a little bit more? Please, let's talk about it. I'm very curious to see what you all have to say. In any case, if you liked the video, and I really hope that you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps me out, helps the channel out as a whole, and it reaches more people, so more people can see the content that I make and hopefully be assisted by it in some way, shape, or form. So, thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next one.